Here's Frank. He's got 2 minutes. 2 minutes to spare.
Really good snowstorm Saturday.
2 minutes.
11 inches, and the word got out. Bucket was
Yeah, you're lucky you got me.
Air conditioning on here?
It's broken. I know, it's broken. We can get it fixed yet.
Where's your coat, Frank? I should have brought a heavier one.
The
Yes,
heat's broken?
and here it is.
What in the world is this? Oh, that makes it. I tried to turn it up.
Right, it's this room. It's this room. Okay, we have still a minute and a few seconds.
Yeah. Goodness, I should put it in
My mittens, that's what I need.
She's still in it. It's in here. It's some
We
movie.
were in New York
He said
last
that he's not gone.
2 or 3 days ago.
I know, I wore my boots.
60 degrees.
My sweater.
Yeah, really.
Nice.
Oh, but it feels like we went to a show. And we were in the States, trying to walk down 600 blocks.
Today's
Well, it's probably
Monday.
better than taking a cab. I mean, I've done that before, trying to get from a restaurant to the theater district.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, might as well just get out and walk.
Well, our place on 57th Street.
Nancy, you ready?
Yeah, on my watch still says 5:59, but I can start. Okay, I'm calling the meeting to order. It's the Land Use Board meeting. It's December 6th, and it is 6 o'clock. And we now have the flag salute, so everybody will stand for that.
Support.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the entrance hall of the Beach Haven Municipal Building and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times and the Asbury Park Press. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision for each individual application. Decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Roll call, Mrs. Eddles?
Here.
Mrs. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Balbo?
Here.
Mr. Tinquist?
Here.
Mr. Stevens?
Here.
Mr. Jenna? Mayor Davis?
Here,
Mr. Meadow? Mrs. Ballmiller?
Here.
Mr. LaFredo? Mr. Wanger?
Yeah.
Ms. King? Mr. Halperin?
Here.
okay, everybody's here. Basically,
Nancy,
uh,
Nancy.
yes, I heard, I saw your text.
Yeah,
And
no, but
think-
I just wanted to say one other thing that I wanted to announce to the board.
Okay,
I wanted to talk about the architectural committee's draft that's on our website. And
okay,
I'd like all the members to go through and read it. I think Jamie and her group have done an outstanding job. But it's good knowledge to know for the type of look we're going for in town. So I just think everybody should be aware of it and take the time to read it. It's not the easiest place to find it. I had to scroll around a while to find it, but I did find it. And it's about 40 pages long, but it's very good.
thank you, Bonnie.
Mhm.
Architectural review,
Business district guidelines.
email it
business
to
district
everyone.
Yeah,
guidelines?
I told Gina to email it out to everybody.
Okay, that would be wonderful if you could do that.
It's also on the announcement section in the website, if you go right to
Yeah.
the borough website. And
Yeah.
James
I went to
was-
government and then went to something else and I finally found it.
Yeah, and Jamie was seeking comments to the
Right.
guideline.
Do we have any more old business? before we get started?
Nope,
No, yes, Bonnie, do you have anything?
no, I don't have any.
All right, I'd like to get started with the redevelopment because Emily Gibbons is here. That way she can, there's an echo on here. That way Emily can get finished and leave, so she doesn't have to drive home too late at night. So do you want to go forward with that?
Sure. So we're here this evening for a master plan consistency review with the proposed redevelopment plan for, it is block 205, lots 1 and 2. And that is also known as, I'm going to get you the street address so everybody has an orientation. 1200 North Bay and 305 12th Street. It's also the former Beach Haven Auto Site. This redevelopment plan merely adopts the underlying zoning. It does supersede the underlying zoning so that no use variances can be granted to any applicant, but it does not change the zoning. And the reason for that is that because of the environmental condition of the site, the borough wants to ensure that any uses that may come forward are consistent with what the Borough Council as redevelopment entity would like to see there, that are consistent with the commercial district. So use variances by this board would not be able to be granted under this plan unless a redevelopment agreement has been entered and council decides that they're going to amend the plan to accommodate that request from any potential redeveloper or the current property owner that's named redeveloper. So this plan itself merely adopts the underlying zoning, so it's not changing anything. And then we'll have Frank sworn in so that he can give his professional planning opinion with regard to consistency with your borough master plan.
Thank you. So Frank, do you want to?
She's gonna swear me in.
Yes, I know.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name.
I mean, Frank Little, board engineer and planner. I'm gonna make it short and sweet. As Emily said, we're adopting this with the underlying zoning. So currently, we're in a business district. We have zoning, a zoning schedule, setbacks.
Would you speak in the microphone, Frank? I'm having trouble hearing you.
This on? Yeah, that's on. Anyway, we're adopting this with the underlying zoning, so it's going to meet the setbacks, the coverage, everything that we currently have for any other development in town, other than the fact that we won't have to worry about the use variance situation. If they want to come in with something that's not in our ordinance, that would have to go before council for a redevelopment agreement. So it's certainly consistent with our master plan goals and with the borough's ordinances.
Does anybody have any questions for Frank or Emily?
I have one question for Emily. The ordinance went before council, which was 2023-38, was an introductory reading. There's going to be a second reading where the public will be able to comment.
Yes, that's correct.
What will be the impact based on those comments if there's any changes to this ordinance?
So if there were public comment that would require changes to the draft plan, then that were substantive, say they were going to change what the zoning might be, incorporate other uses or something like that, then it would get reintroduced in January. And that would come back to this board because you wouldn't have reviewed those things for master plan consistency. So as long as there are no substantive changes to the plan, which is highly unlikely because really we're sticking with the underlying zoning, ensuring that that property remains a commercial viable property in the business district. At this time, we don't see any other potential uses for it. And this gives, adoption of the plan gives the Borough Council the ability then to enter into agreements, even with the current property owner, to ensure that their rights are protected and that they're doing the things that they are supposed to be doing with regard to the remediation. So it's just another, you may have heard the term tool in the toolbox, but without having this redevelopment plan in place, the Borough Council really can't act as a redevelopment entity. So the plan is a statutory requirement before you can enter into any agreements. But again, to answer your question again, if there is any substantive change based on public comment, then it would have to get reintroduced and it would come back to the board for a full review of those changes.
And I guess my second question, my understanding is a committee or the owners are working to clean up the site from the contamination. Does that have any, if the site does get cleaned up, does that have any impact on what we're doing tonight?
It does not. What we're doing tonight is adopting the underlying zoning to ensure that the borough is able, in a position to act as redevelopment entity. And again, that is so that they can enter into an agreement if that find that necessary with a current property owner, any other potential redeveloper. The first and foremost, this site has to get cleaned up. And the owners have provided information to us through their LSRP that shows that they are wrapping up some additional testing that has been done. They're going to provide an analysis and a report of that. And they're taking steps to move towards remediation of the property. They are working on that.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Anybody on Zoom? Anybody else in the audience have any questions or thoughts, comments? In that case, do we have a motion to approve resolution 227, 2023?
I so move that we approve it.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Davis,
Yes?
Mr. Meadow, oh, sorry, he's not here. Mrs. Ball Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Eddles,
Yes.
Mrs. Leonard,
Yes,
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Tinquist,
Yes.
Mr. Balbo,
Yes.
Mr. Wanger,
Yes.
and Mr. Halperin.
Yes.
Resolution approved.
Thank you. If we go to the top of the list, Emily, thank you very much. If we go to the top of the list, we're on to the resolution for the dock and claw, which is 2023-14. And did everybody have time to read that resolution? Does anybody have any comments or anything they want to add or change in the resolution?
I have a
No.
comment. I have a comment.
Yes,
Previously, when they came to us, I mean, they went to the town for the permit. I think everybody needs to realize they asked for 4 picnic tables. They only ever put out 3. And I just think people should understand that even though they were approved for 4, they only put out 3. So, and there was a lot of information incorrectly put out on the internet that they were coming and asking for increased seating, and they were not. So I need everybody in town to be aware of the fact that everything you read and most of what you read on Facebook or on Gage Beach Haven is not true. So that's my comment.
thank you. Anybody else? In that case, is there a motion to approve this particular resolution?
I make a motion to approve.
I second, Jamie.
One second.
Do we have enough? 6, okay. Mrs. Davis,
Yes,
Mrs. Ball Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Leonard,
Yes,
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Tinquist,
Yes.
Mr. Balbo.
Yes.
Resolution approved.
okay, so the resolution is done. So now we're moving to the escrow returns.
Now, there's another resolution.
Yeah, I see that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My eyes aren't so good. Yeah, so we have a resolution 2023-12, Gamma Levy. Basically, has everybody read that? Are there any comments or thoughts on that particular? There wasn't some changes that you published just recently.
There were some changes that I got last week, and then I had sent the resolution to the applicant's attorney and just made a couple of changes to the lot numbers. That was it.
Okay,
That was a change today.
okay,
And nothing substantive.
okay. Is there any comments or anybody want to comment on this resolution and on the board?
Nancy, the only comment I have, and I don't even know if it requires a change, on page 2, it talks about impervious coverage of 88.5%. The testimony we heard, which I thought was a good selling point for adopting this subdivision, was if you consider all properties, including the residential and the commercial, the impervious coverage goes to 66%, which is very close to, what our ordinance. So I don't know if we want to put that number in the resolution.
The only issue that I had, originally they were seeking a variance for the impervious coverage on the commercial lot. They withdrew that request, and the testimony about the potential lot coverage on the entire parcel, that's not before the board right now. They were saying if it were built as they had originally proposed, it would be around 66%, but we're not going to know exactly what that number is until they come back with plans. So that's why I just referenced the 88.5 that was on their plans, but then stated that they withdrew that request.
Okay.
So.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Any other comments? Anybody on Zoom?
Nope.
All right, no comments? So is it, Penny?
Yeah, you said there were a couple changes to a couple of the lot
Yes.
numbers. Are they of any consequence for us? Do we
No,
need
it
to-
was just a correction that he had.
Any other comments? Is there a motion to approve resolution 2023-12? Do I have a motion to approve? Okay. Is there a second?
Second, Penny.
Okay.
Yeah, she's trying to, but she's made it.
Nobody's raising their.
So we need a roll call.
Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Leonard,
Yes,
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Jenna. He's not here.
he's not there.
Mr. Tinquist. Mr. Tinquist,
Yes.
Mr. Balbo,
Yes.
Mr. Halpern.
Yes.
Resolution approved.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're on to escrow returns. Basically, this is just an approval to return $2,039.70 to Mercer Management and Chris Vernon. I guess this is just a vote, basically. Okay,
Mrs. Eddles,
Yes, I approve.
Mrs. Leonard,
Yes,
Mr. Tinquist,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mayor Davis,
yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Wanger,
Yes.
and Mr. Halpern.
Yes.
Escrow approved.
Okay, so now we just have approval of the minutes Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes?
We don't have minutes.
We don't have any minutes?
I'll have them next
You didn't
meeting.
get those done? Now that you say it, I don't remember reading it, seeing them myself. Okay, so we skip over that. I did see the bills, though. Is everybody okay with the bills? Is there a motion to approve the bills?
So moved.
So second?
Second.
Mrs. Eddles,
Yes.
Mrs. Leonard,
Yes,
Mr. Tinquist,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller, Mr. Wanger,
Yes.
and Mr. Hale.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I skipped Mr. Balbo, I'm sorry. Mr. Balbo,
Mr. Balbo says yes.
okay. Bill list approved.
So that basically is all the business we have on our agenda for today. Is there any new business or anything anybody would like to bring up? Bonnie brought up the architectural material for the Main Street, the business district. Anybody else have any comments or questions? In that case, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Any.
Second? No second.
Second.
All right.
don't forget the Christmas dinner.
Oh, when is it going to be?
It's
The 10th.
Sunday night, the 10th.
The 10th,
p.m.
okay,
Time, 6? What was the
6
time?
PM.
Yes.
okay. That's this
I'll
weekend,
send a
right?
reminder.
Okay,
And it's
And
at
the
the,
menu,
it's
also the
at the
menu,
Ingalls
too.
side, correct?
and what time?
6.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, so everybody can leave now. Everybody out in the audience.
Go have dinner.
Happy holidays, everybody.